about it all.
No,
it's about
not
the
at all.
Gippsland Lakes that are owned by all of us, and everybody should be able to share in that asset.
Yeah.
Everybody should be able to share in that asset. Do you even hear yourself? This is about removing the access of part of Victoria to appease another part. Hi everyone, welcome back. On the 30th of October, the Minister for Agriculture in Victoria and the Premier, Daniel Andrews, made an announcement on a fishing show without any consultation with the parties that were going to be impacted by this announcement, which is the closure of net fishing commercial fishing in Gippsland Lake. So I thought I'd play the video for you to sort of go through it with you, what it actually means, not just how they're saying it, but what it actually means for the consumer and also for the families that are involved in their commercial fishing. So anyway, I had to watch the whole video. I'm not going to make you suffer through the whole thing. So enjoy.
A big one. There is about to be a flood event down in Gippsland, and it probably won't put anyone in danger because you're going to talk about the Gippsland Lakes, and I think a few people are going to cry when you announce what you're going to announce next.
Well, look, it will be pretty strong.
Hold on. I love how he just lets that roll straight off the tongue. A lot of people are going to cry. Yes, a lot of people have cried. So it's not just a matter of, hey, how cool is this? It is devastating for families, and this is just pathetic.
Straightforward about it. We think the time for commercial netting in the Gippsland Lakes is over, and we're going to move to compulsorily buy back those licences. I think there's 10 of them that operate across the Gippsland Lakes now. They don't work for the environment. They don't work for wreck fishers. Of course.
Whoop! Hold it right there. They don't work for wreck fishers, and they don't work for the environment. Are you for real, Daniel Andrews? You just introduced the Target 1 Million program 3 years and 50 weeks ago, according to this show, to introduce a further 200 and something thousand recreational fishers to Victoria to go fishing. Now, I'm not against recreational fishing. I am against pitting one against the other. Now, to say that commercial fishing is not working for the environment when you are removing them to benefit recreational fishing is just abhorrent. Look at the amount of soft plastic imported lures that come in, that get used, that get bitten off, that end up in our waterways. Look at the bait bags that end up in our waterways. And you're saying that commercial fishing is the problem? Please, you're a joke.
We'll treat each of those licence holders fairly, just as we have done when we've gone through this process and delivered fantastic outcomes in other places.
Fair would be to let these 10 fishermen continue to operate their businesses. That is fair, Daniel Andrews. Not what you're doing. What you're doing is rubbish.
I think the time has come for us to make this important step, and I think that those local communities and wreck fishers far beyond who travel down to that beautiful part of our state, they're entitled to that body of water, that fishery being owned truly by all of us.
I completely agree with this. They do. They do deserve the right to go and enjoy those beautiful waterways that belong to all Victorians. All Victorians. Now, I didn't make you sit through this whole thing, but earlier the Premier mentioned that there's around 830,000 wreck fishers in Victoria currently, trying to introduce more. Now, it's a well-known fact that only 10% of recreational fishers catch 90% of the fish caught. So, therefore, there is a large portion of recreational fishers that are not catching the fish they need to eat. So it's safe to assume that they are also buying local product from seafood outlets, which get that from commercial fishermen. So they're going to lose access to, the community's going to lose access to seafood. What's your answer there?
And not being captive to the commercial interest of a very small number of people.
Yeah.
This is not an easy call to make. We do understand that this won't be, not everybody will necessarily support this, but those who've got a licence, they'll be properly treated, respectfully treated. Yeah. They'll be brought out, just as we have done in terms of Port Phillip Bay. Jail has led that process. And I think, I was talking to Rex Hunt a little while ago. I know he's a great friend of this program, a great friend of fishing. The excitement in his voice about the way the bay is now.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Oh, yippee! Yippee! 10 more businesses that are going to be destroyed. Families, their lives turned upside down, and they're not going to be able to provide for their families anymore. What a great day! What a great day for the public. Joke.
And each of the fisheries where we've taken the nets out are so much healthier, so much better now, and again belong to all of us. And that's exactly what they should be. Yeah. So that, I know that's a big thing to do. Yeah. But it's important that you've got that proactive agenda every 4 years. We can't stop. We've got to keep going to get to all these targets, but also to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important too to say that this isn't the end of commercial fishing in Lakes Entrance, because you drive down the hill of Lakes Entrance, you see all the trawlers there and all that. There is a very, very big offshore fishery.
It's about fishing in the lakes.
Yes, that's just the
not
lakes.
About offshore.
And you're going to be able to get your gummy shark and your snap.
Here it is. We're not ending commercial fishing. There's more fishermen. It's okay. I'm sorry. We already import 75% of the seafood we consume in Australia. 75%. Every fisherman you take out of our waterways means more imported seafood. You know what that means for recreational fishers? That means an increase of the risk to our biosecurity of our wild stocks. Have a look at what happened in southeast Queensland with white spot disease. Where'd that come from? Well, that came because a recreational fisher was using imported green prawns to go fishing. But it's okay. It's only 10 fishermen. It's only 10 fishing businesses. And it's only 10 families we're destroying. There's more commercial fishermen.
And the flathead that are all offshore species, no change there. It is still going to be a very big commercial hub for fishing.
Of course.
And you're still going to be able to get your fresh fish, which is absolutely fantastic.
No doubt there'll be a bit of sort of mischief made about this, that it's the end of offshore. Yeah. That's not what this is about at all.
No,
it's about the Gippsland Lakes that are owned by all of us, and everybody should be able to share in that asset.
Yeah.
Everybody should be able to share in that asset. Do you even hear yourself? This is about removing the access of part of Victoria to appease another part. This is a joke.
It's not just about getting the netting out, though. We also need to make sure that we restore an environment that has not been very well taken care of over a long period of time. So some research, some science, and then
so that's
some
separate
profound
to the buyout.
investments.
You're going to do something separate.
Yes, that's right. So we'll do some further investments to make sure that that we can rehabilitate and better look after, better take care of that precious resource.
Yeah.
It's it's a heyday for tourism. A lot of people are describing as something in the past, and really the buyout of those licenses.
My God, it's a thing of the past. Are you for real? Most people want to be able to enjoy locally caught seafood. Have you ever gone out and spoken to people and asked them what they think? Or do you just talk to the fishing show and Rex Hunt and all the other radical recreational lobbyists?
This is one part of it, but I think, to do this properly and to rebuild what was once great there is the restoration of habitat, and so we're very keen to do that, and also to do events with the local community, work with local tourism operators to really rebuild that into a very, very special fishing destination. But we'll deal fairly and responsibly with the licence holders in very much the same way that we did for Port Phillip.
So you're going to fail because that's what you did. There's no fairness in what you're doing. Don't pretend you're being fair. Don't talk your shit on this fishing show talking about fairness. None of this is fair. These people are generational fishermen who have provided food for their nation for decades. And you want to talk about fairness and fairly removing their rights to continue to feed their nation.
Taking into account the gear that they've got, the licence that they own, and what their catch history's been. So that'll be the model that we'll use going forward, and that'll be unwelcome news to those people. But the people at the
Here's an idea. Talking about catch history, let's go for policy history. How about your pension is dependent upon how much good your policies have done overall for the Victorian public? And let's see how much you get. And that should be done for all politicians. Not many will have a pension. You'll be paying the communities back for the rest of your life.
Lakes Entrance Fishing Co-op have got a really great vision around tourism and people being able to come to that beautiful spot that they've got there to come and buy their fresh fish, and we really want to work with them on that part of their vision as we work through this with them.
One of the things that I'll remember that day 3 years and 50 weeks ago that we were in 3RW studios, and one of the things we spoke about with the buyout of Port Phillip Bay was the compassion, because there are some families that have been in that industry for generations, but it doesn't mean it's got to go on forever. I mean, it's a bit like, I don't want to mention coal-fired power plants, but sometimes they don't go for...
Oh, he didn't. Wow. For starters, these families aren't like coal-fired power plants, and coal-fired power plants are the only reason that we have electricity. I'm all for renewable energy, but the efficiency is just not there to reach the stupid levels that Daniel Andrews wants and others around the country. Back to the families. They're devastated. And I am so glad that you find this so amusing.
Forever, and there's sometimes there's a time to move on and change things, those Hazelwood barrel was so good.
Proper, respectful, be treated properly. And part of that's basically making this announcement now before the election. If people don't like this approach, then they don't have to vote for it on the 24th of November. If we are successful, we're very clear about our plans.
Please, Victoria, 24th of November, do not vote for this man. Honestly, if people in Victoria do not see through his garbage and you vote him in again, I can't imagine what Victoria is going to look like. You definitely won't have any local seafood left. You just get rid of them. Every time a commercial fisherman is removed, that is more seafood off your plate, all for the benefit of a few recreational fishers.
When it comes to this issue, and we'll treat those families properly, and they'll be appropriately compensated. Again, the point Joel makes around the gear that they've purchased and all of those things, as well as their catch history. So this will be done properly, no different to the way the Port Phillip Bay process went. You know, ultimately, once you can be confident that they'll be treated properly, we've got to stop talking about, you know, bringing back the brim. It's not just talking about it. You've got to get on, rehabilitate, invest.
May need to restock.
That's exactly right. And you and I have talked about this.
How about rehabilitate, restock, and reinvest while the commercial fishers are still there? How about make it all better while these people are still in business? There's a good idea. Much better than your nonsense.
Many times that is a beautiful, precious place. And the locals want it back for everybody. And we're going to give it to them.
Again, you want to give it to everybody by taking it off the majority of the population who get their seafood through commercial fishing businesses. You're a joke.
Just a reminder, everybody, there is a public rally on this Sunday in Paynesville. I'll be emceeing the stage there. Charlie, you're coming down to the rally?
Yeah, I'm going to come along.
And it's this Sunday.
Heard about this? What a beauty. According to ABC, who attended, 50 people showed up out of 830,000 rec fishers in Victoria. The community rally. Let's make the Gippsland Lakes great again. 50 people? Honestly, this is just sad. Please, Victoria, do not vote this person in again. You can do far, far better. Honestly. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I haven't even watched the rest. I'm not interested. I'm over the rubbish. There's still time. It's only the 10th of November when I'm recording this, so we've still got 14 days to go to the polls. So anyone who's watching this, make sure you share it around to anyone that enjoys fresh local seafood, and even to recreational fishers who have even half a brain. Because the peanuts in charge of recreational fishing and the ones that are lobbying for these closures and increasing the threat to biosecurity of our wild stocks throughout Australia, they don't have brains. They are just speaking nonsense. And they are going to these politicians saying that they represent all recreational fishers and all communities. They don't. They don't represent any of them. Many of the recreational fishers I know haven't even heard of the lobbyists that are in Canberra and in Victorian Parliament and in New South Wales Parliament and all around Australia. No one's heard of them. So how are these politicians just going with the flow? Just saying, oh, there's votes here. No votes for you with this. Daniel, sorry to say, I do not know why you are going down this path, because it is going to be devastating for generations to come. Your short-sighted policy will be devastating in the long term. As I said, we already import 75% of our seafood, and it climbs every single year. And until people vote people like this out, based on their policy with seafood, they're not going to get the message. So not only go to vote, but make sure you tell people, tell the politicians why you're not voting for them. Write them a letter and say, you lost my vote. You're taking my seafood. Stop being a nuisance. Anyway, next up, I actually interviewed Pete Hilcke. Pete Hilcke is a private chef from Melbourne. And we discuss this very closure, this very announcement. And he too is not thrilled about it. Pete Hilcke, how are you today?
Dane, I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. And yourself?
Yeah, very well. Apart from this latest announcement by Daniel Andrews, what are your initial thoughts on the announcement to remove the remaining 10 fishers from Gippsland Lake?
Well, my opinion on it is the fact being that he's gone to Channel 31 to a show called Talking Fishing to announce it. And I personally think that it's a low act because there's no scientific reasoning behind getting rid of commercial fishing. Absolutely none. And I think, as you'd know from 2015, when they did shut down the bay, they actually came out and said that Port Phillip Bay was sustainable. So in this instant, it's, Daniel Andrews is just doing this for votes. There is absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever.
There's also an argument there that the votes he's trying to fish for aren't actually there, because it's a well-known fact that the actual recreational fishers that support these sort of bans it's a very small minority. The majority of recreational fishers actually support commercial fishing.
Yeah, look, and there is. And I think the unfortunate part about it, there are certain people in the media that started this many years ago. They've continued it on. And, that's the unfortunate part about it. I think we do know, Dane, that the media, especially on certain other radio stations, can be very persuasive.
Yes.
And when you are persuasive like that, you can get not only, through the reach, through the amount of listeners that they have, you can actually get a greater reach. That greater reach from, for example, the Premier's perspective, that gives him greater power in his own mind to actually win the next election.
Yeah, exactly. But it's honestly, I hope for Victoria that he does not win the election. I can't think of anything worse for the people of Victoria to have him for another 4 years.
Oh, look, I totally agree with you. He's done a lot of harm, but, from my own opinion, I look and say, well, hold on. Let's look about local business, local business. And why are they getting rid of local business? There is no support there. And that breaks my heart. And especially when you see people in local businesses losing their own businesses because a government is just going out after votes.
Yeah.
That is just wrong.
So as a seafood chef and a seafood ambassador, you obviously have a certain love for seafood. Now, when you hear the fact that we import 75% of the seafood we consume in Australia when we are surrounded by water. How does that make you feel as a seafood chef?
Well, you know, it's actually interesting you say that, because I remember it was back in July when the government brought in the labelling laws for retail. One thing that I questioned straight away is, why are there no labelling laws for, you know, the food industry, for the hospitality? And so the way I feel about it is that if there has to be labelling laws right across the board, retail as well as through the restaurants, clubs, pubs, so people know they can make their own minds up what's actually, you know, what they want to purchase. But when it comes down to the amount of imports that do come into the country, this is a government that is just completely out of touch, and that is doing it purely on a political gain so they can get in power. They don't care about local business. That is it. They just do not care about local business. And as a chef, I'm just disgusted, absolutely disgusted by the way how people can treat local businesses, and small businesses at that. And you still will have the super trawlers out in the oceans doing what they do. I'm confused, and I can understand why a lot of consumers out there would be totally confused with what's happening.
Well, have you noticed a higher demand for the local seafood?
Being a private chef and going into people's houses and cooking for them, I think one of the biggest misses the industry has actually missed is education, to actually the awareness of local seafood. Because up until the labelling laws, Dane, as you would know, a retail shop could put out there, I've got barramundi, for example, and they didn't have to label where it was from. So a lot of people would just go and buy it, being a cheaper price. And I think it comes down to education. So the demand from, and I'll say this, from the millennial side of things, is they want to know where their seafood's coming from. So yes, the demand is growing. And that is one thing that we should increase, is the education of, and the story behind the provenance, the story of where does your fish actually come from.
Yeah, well, there's actually my podcast that comes out tomorrow is actually with Peter Monetta's, who has started a company called Shore Trade, and that enables that sort of traceability aspect for all the way through the supply chain. So it'll be interesting to see where that takes us as an industry. But to finish off here, what is your favourite seafood dish to cook?
Well, I'll tell you what, from the Gippsland Lakes, what I do love personally is the local flathead. It is beautiful. It's a pelagic fish that is just, it's stunning. And you don't have to do much with it. It's just quick, a little bit of salt and pepper, grill it off, add a little bit of butter at the end, and it's absolutely perfection.
Love it. I haven't tasted Gippsland flathead myself, but I haven't actually been to Victoria yet. So I would love to come down to Melbourne, and I might even have to meet up with you and get some of that beautiful flathead. Now, come next election, let's just be hopeful that Victorian Labor in the best possible fashion.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it's time for a change. It's time for the governments to start to listen to the people that want local seafood. Not listen to the ones, not try and fill our bays and estuaries and everything with 1 million people. I mean, that's just that's ridiculous, Dane.
It's a farce.
Absolutely.
It
And
not only is not only is it a farce, it's actually proven not to work. In New South Wales, in the early 2000s, they introduced 33 recreational-only fishing havens. At the time, Eddie O'Bede said that there was 2 million recreational fishers. Today, even though they have introduced all of those areas that are no longer accessible to the general public, there is now 850,000 recreational fishers in the state. So what good did those areas do for the economy? None whatsoever.
Look, exactly. And I think one of the great tragedies is and I'm just going to give you this little story very quickly. About 2 years ago, I was on the Australian Seafood Show on Foxtel, and I had got a phone call just after they shut down Port Phillip Bay, and obviously they were doing it right throughout the coast. I got a phone call from a lady in Mackay in Queensland. Her father's best friend, who was a commercial fisherman, committed suicide because he didn't know what to do. The governments who do this have got blood on their hands, and I am not sorry for saying it, because it's about time that the consumer woke up and actually, you know what, said to the government, enough is enough. We want local seafood. We deserve to have local seafood. And why are you trying to just get rid of it all? Why? Just ask them why.
Yeah. It's definitely a question on my mind. Now, before we go, Pete, if anyone wants to follow you and see what you do, how do they find you?
Okay, well, they can, Instagram, Pete.Hilcke. It's Hilcke. So Pete.Hilcke on Instagram. On Facebook, you've got Private Chef Pete Hilcke serving the sea.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Pete.
Look, Dane, thank you very much. Worthwhile cause, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Thanks, mate. See you later.
See you, Dane. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks for joining me, everyone. Once again, don't vote Labor in Victoria. Please don't. Honestly, I'm from New South Wales, but please do not do that to yourself. Not again. You cannot afford to have him again for another 4 years. Absolutely insane. Think of the seafood, think of the families, and think of energy security. They all don't happen under his watch. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please, if you can head over to YouTube and subscribe. I haven't really done much with YouTube. I just put videos up, don't really do anything about it. So yeah, just go over and subscribe. You'll get notifications when videos come up. Share the video around Facebook if you can, Instagram, Twitter, and be good. And I'll see you in the next video.